Alright, question time. What do you think is that car that, when it was first released, actually had an entire song named after it and sang by my favorite Singaporean singer, JJ Lin? Of course, the car in question is none other than the one we have here today. This one right here is the Volkswagen Lamando in this 280 TSI DSG SEL trim. Today I'm going to show you around this car and I'm also going to give it a test drive, so stay tuned. Let's first establish what exactly the Volkswagen Lamando is. You basically take a Volkswagen Jetta or its Chinese counterpart, the Sagitar, and you give it a more sloping roofline, you give it a little bit more edgier looks, and then you give it a little bit more bling, and that's basically the Volkswagen Lamando. And the styling of the Lamando really does show that. So if you look at the front part, yes, it's very similar to a Volkswagen Jetta or even a Mark 7 Volkswagen Golf. However, it's slightly bit edgier. So while the lines are still restrained here on the hood, for example, they're a bit sharper than most Volkswagens. It's very basic, it's very minimalist, you got some patterns over there, but mostly just straight lines, chrome and black as well. The huge Volkswagen badge, full LED automatic headlights, you also get DRLs and fog lights down below. But if you do go on further down, you can even see that the chin, although they're trying to make it look a little bit sporty, it is still very much restrained. Take a look at the Volkswagen Lamando from the side and you can see the sporty nature of this car. The roofline, for example, it's really sloped, which gives it a more like fastback appearance to it. Even the black roof up top, which is your rather big sunroof. It's not panoramic, but it is pretty big for a standard sunroof, and it doesn't really go into anything. It just goes above the rear parts of the roof, which is pretty cool. Incredibly creased character lines over here at the side, very powerful looking. 17-inch rims wrapped in unknown tires, because this particular test unit right here has 3 different tires on it, which is kind of funny. And of course, you also have your keyless entry, your turn signals with repeaters, and this SEL trim even gets power folding mirrors. Now we move on over towards the back of the car, and this is where a little bit of a problem does show, because as you can see, this part of the roofline, this very slope part of it is, well, very sloped. So let's take a look at the interior later on and see how that does for headroom. Take a look at the Volkswagen Lamando from the back, and over here you will see a rather minimalist design. It's still very sporty, so your trunk lid, it is quite low, which does expose your really raked rear windshield. You also have these clean looking lights, which if you do unlock the car, they even give you this nice light show like that with the turn signals. A huge Volkswagen badge, your Lamando badge, rear parking sensors on this one, and 2 really fake vents here at the back. What's cool about this back part though is the way you open up the trunk of this car, you actually press into the top of the Volkswagen logo, but that's not the only cool part about this logo right here. When you put the car into reverse, you do reveal a reverse camera, but where do you put it over here at the back? Well, it's actually inside the Volkswagen logo, and it just pops out like that. It's pretty cool. Now, when this trunk does open up, you're looking at 480 liters of space, but you can even fold down these second row seats, giving you over 1,150 liters of space. It is pretty big, but not the biggest out there. Why is that so? It's because this car is quite sporty and has rear multi-link independent suspension, which means that it will eat into boot space and cabin space a little bit, but in exchange you do get better handling. Powering this Volkswagen Lamando is this 1.4 liter turbocharged gasoline engine, making 150 horsepower and 250 newton meters of torque. This can actually do the sprint from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in only 8.5 seconds, a top speed of 215 kilometers per hour, and has also made it to a really quick 7-speed dual clutch automatic transmission. Now here inside the Volkswagen Lamando, we check the door stud. It's really one of the best out there. I love Volkswagen stores. Inside the Volkswagen Lamando, you are cocooned in a lot of premium feeling material. So here on your dashboard, it is soft touch. Here on the side as well, and even this adjustable armrest in the center, it's all very sturdy feeling. Your steering wheel is leather wrapped with this slightly shiny type of leather. Of course, it's multi-function, some piano black on it, and your adaptive cruise control settings, which this car has, by the way, is also over here. And it is tilt and telescoping as well. For your instrument cluster, you have this what they call the active inflow display, or the AID. And it is one of the best out there. I mean, there's a lot of cars now with digital instrument clusters, but when this car was first released, and even today in 2022, this looks absolutely beautiful, and it's customizable as well. It's so crisp, it's so high resolution. I just love this display. To the middle of everything is a 9.2-inch touchscreen only for the SEL trim, and it comes with Apple CarPlay but no Android Auto. You do get some faux carbon fiber trim. Down below, your AC switches, they are all ergonomic and you can easily reach them and operate them. Although they are surrounded with a lot of piano black dual zone climate control as well. Regular shifter, dual clutch. I love this. Push button start. Then you also get an electronic parking brake, auto hold, TPMS, auto stop start, and the features go on with this car. The seats, for example, these are leather seats and they call this the sport leather. So what's kind of odd about it is that you do have like the faux carbon fiber thing, which it looks like faux carbon fiber, but it's leather too. That's the first time I've seen that on any car. It's quite interesting. Anyway, the seats themselves, 12-way power adjustable for the driver's side with really good bolstering. So they're the perfect balance between sportiness and comfort. Then 8-way manually adjustable for the passenger side. For your airbags, you get 6 in this SEL trim, and you also get this sunroof up top. And then now here at the back, we also check the door thud. Sounds better than some Volvos, it's crazy. Okay, now back here, one problem. It is just headroom. I'm only 5'6", so if you're a bit taller, you're gonna really struggle back here. But even at 5'6", I have just about an 1.5 inches of headroom, maybe 2 inches at most. And if I do lean on over to the side, I will hit this part of the roof. So that's just something to look out for. If you're a bit on the taller side, maybe the Volkswagen Lamando isn't for you. However, this car really isn't about being chauffeured, and it's a car that you want to drive yourself, and so maybe the back seat wasn't exactly the priority. Anyway, going back, legroom is actually pretty good though, and the car is rather wide, so you can kind of seat 3 people in this car. It's not the best, but it's actually pretty doable. For your toys back here, you do get your own armrest, which is pretty damn thick. You also get 2 more cup holders right here with adjustable cup settings. Then you also have a bottle holder on the side. You even have your 2 air vents back here, and also 2 USB-A charging ports. The recline of the seat, it's also the perfect recline. I'm really enjoying these seats, and they also have that slight bolstering towards the sides. They're not as aggressive as the front, but they are pretty good as is. Driving the Volkswagen Lamando SEL. This car only has 150 horsepower, but it really doesn't feel like it because the engine and transmission combo is so good. So for me, honestly, it really feels more like 180 horsepower. I've had my Volkswagen Golf GTS before, and that was a diesel with a lot more low down torque, and that one had 150 horsepower. That despite this car having 152, it really does feel much faster than that. And even if there's like 3 of us in the car currently, it really is just so fast. And the DSG transmission is just so crisp. You do not feel a single gear shift in this one. Even if you leave this car in the D mode instead of the S mode, this thing just loves overtaking, and it also loves taking corners really fast, because this one does get multi-link independent rear suspension. Now, if you do take this corner even a bit faster, it feels incredibly composed. Of course, you are still limited to that front-wheel drivetrain, so you can't really get it to power slide, which is not something you're supposed to do in the first place. But as far as front-wheel drive cars go, this is one of the best. Volkswagen really makes the best front-wheel drive cars out there. But if you do not want to drive this stupidly, you'll be happy to know that the Volkswagen Lamando is also incredibly happy if you drive it calmly inside the city. And not only that, but it can do 8.6 kilometers per liter inside the city, and on the highway you can put that all the way up to 15 kilometers per liter. Also, what makes the Lamando incredibly great for the city is the fact that despite it having a rather sporty setup suspension, it is still rather comfortable. Of course, it's not cushy in any way. It is still rather firm. But for a car that handles this good, I think it has a really great compromise between handling and comfort. This car doesn't hurt, even if you go on really big bumps. I really do appreciate that they use 17-inch rims on this one instead of going for 18s, which I'm pretty sure the car can also do. So the 17 is the best compromise also, and it gives you the best comfort and also pretty good handling. Yet another thing that really makes the Lamando pretty fit for the city is the really light steering system in this one. And okay, here's the thing. With a lot of electronically assisted power steering systems, they're not exactly the most fun. They don't really communicate that much. And while this one Feedback isn't the best as far as electronic power assisted steering systems can go. That's probably one of the most direct out there. So it's really light in the city, easy to maneuver, but like right now I'm on the highway and it's incredibly stable. And this is something that only German cars can usually do because it really does track incredibly well. It's very solid feeling, it's very robust feeling here on the highway. Noise-wise in the highway, you will hear a little bit of tire noise, but wind noise is almost non-existent. But it is possible that the tire noise I am getting is because of the fact that this particular test unit right here has 3 different tires on it. So it has a Dunlop, it has a Hankook, and it has that Champiro. I forgot what the brand is of that one. But yeah, I believe that if you get a better set of tires for this one, it will significantly, if not completely, eliminate the tire noise that is permeating into the cabin. Vibrations wise, the engine is so smooth in this. It may be a rather small displacement 1.4 liter engine, but it really feels much bigger than that. This one feels like a 2 liter and it just is really nice. When it comes to transmissions, there's just pretty much no other manufacturer out there that can beat the Volkswagen group, and the Lamando is no exception. Now this one right here does use that dual clutch gearbox, and you would usually expect dual clutch gearbox to be really jerky, especially in low speeds, especially when you're getting off the first gear. And while there is a little bit of a delay, maybe like 1 to 300 RPMs worth of delay after you step on the throttle from a standstill, this is still one of the most responsive, and it doesn't roll back way too much in an incline, which is good. And you also have auto hold in this one, which would completely eliminate that. So the transmission in this, it's okay enough in the city, but it's amazing in the highway and if you are going pretty fast. One thing though that the Lamando isn't the best in would be visibility. Well, here at the front, you will notice that the dashboard feels a little bit too high, but it's not really the dashboard that's a problem. It really is the sloping and rake roof line, and even your windshield itself here at the front, it is pretty rake. Even the back is pretty rake. And while you do have a reverse camera which makes parking this really easy, the only problem really here is that even if you're short or tall, you'll find the forward visibility to be a little bit weird. Yes, it feels sporty, but it's just a bit disorienting only at the beginning though. Once you get a hang of the car, it's not too bad. Well, the Volkswagen Lamando, when it first came out, I still remember I went to the Volkswagen showroom and it was priced pretty well for its time. It was at 1.7 million pesos, somewhere around that area. And even today, this one right here in the SEL trim costs 1,703,000 pesos. Today, that pricing may be a little bit high, especially if you do compare it to the other Chinese brands here in the Philippines and all that they can offer. However, this car simply offers what other manufacturers can't offer that cost half the price of this car. And that is the refinement and how well it tracks on the highway. These German cars simply are the best when it comes to long distance cruising, high speed cruising. After all, they were designed with the Autobahn in mind, despite this car not being sold in Germany. So at 1.703 million pesos, do I think it's worth it? All I can say is this is my favorite lend out so far, and I've driven, well, almost 200 cars now. This really does end up in the top 10 probably of the best bang for your buck cars that I have driven.